Hey, I'm Paul Getter. You're listening to the Head Smack Podcast.
You are listening to conversations with misfits, mavericks, and trailblazers.
Hey, welcome to the Head Smack Podcast. My name is Paul Pavolny, and I'm excited to have another misfit with me. I have Paul Getter, and Paul Getter is a top digital marketer and founder of Speakpreneur, helping entrepreneurs turn their message into money by building powerful personal brands and becoming high-paid speakers. How you doing, Paul?
Fantastic. I just now realized I was introduced as a misfit. So I got another misfit on the show. You won't believe it. Wow.
Hey, with that superhero
Thank you very much.
the bow tie. Yeah, I love having misfits on here, and these are people that are out of the ordinary. They're doing amazing things. They're breaking the rules sometimes. They're sometimes establishing new rules. And so I love having these conversations.
I got another anarchist on the podcast.
Well, that's a whole different podcast.
That's a different podcast. Yeah.
This one's the misfit one. But yeah, I love that superhero vibe you have going. We have both the blue and the superhero stuff going on. You have totally gone in on the Marvel universe, and I am scattered all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, to each their own. But yeah, I am. So all my posters are signed by the actors and also Stan Lee. So if you're a Marvel fan, you know who Stan Lee is.
Nice.
And,
wow.
Yeah. So
did you get to meet him, or you just got the signed piece from?
Just got the signed poster.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, man, I appreciate you being on today, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Looking forward to hearing about what you're doing in the marketing space, and it's going to be a fun conversation.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So since we're both into superheroes, the way I like starting the podcast is I like talking about your origin story. I like to hear a little bit about how you became the marketing nerd. And so I want to kind of hear as far back as you want to go on that, to tell me a little bit more about your journey to becoming who you are right now. So you can start as far back as you want, as you feel.
Yeah. So I guess it started as a child when I was bit by a nerd, and I'm tapping into
Spider-Man reference. I get that.
Yeah. A lot of times people ask me the question, how did you come up with the internet marketing nerd brand? And it's just like, no, that's nerd is actually who I am. I'm a nerd. And so it just kind of fell into place like that. But when it comes to the digital marketing space, I played around with the internet, I guess you would say, before the internet even existed. Back in the days, it was bulletin board systems. Instead of websites. You probably remember those days. And so I remember reading a book trying to learn computer programming. So I was building websites and databases and everything like that. Just learning. Is before YouTube. Couldn't watch YouTube videos and learn this because there was no YouTube.
Right.
So I always had this nerdy background and went to Bible college and got a degree in theology. And I quickly realized that a degree in theology, albeit most times people do that for, personal reasons, and that's what it was for me. But when I graduated, I realized that it wasn't necessarily a very marketable degree. So I found myself doing all kinds of little side hustles and stuff. And when businesses started to come online, I was building websites. And at this time, I'm going to say probably less than 20% of companies had websites, but I would go door to door and say, hey, you need to be online. You need to have a website. And they're like, no, I'm in the phone book. I'm on the radio and stuff.
Yeah, I have the yellow pages. Yeah.
I have the yellow pages. And so I was doing that as kind of like a side hustle. And I was working at a merchant processing company, and I did everything, man. I did roofing, I did construction, I did whatever I could to get the bills paid.
Yeah.
And at this point, I was working at a merchant processor, and I remember the boss would come in just mean and angry, yelling at everybody and stuff, and I was like, man, this guy, I mean, he would leave and people would be emotionally upset about this. And again, I'm doing my little website thing, side hustle on the side. And one day he came in just yelling at everybody. I'm trying to be a diplomatic, nice guy about it. And so I go up to him. I was like, hey, sir, you know, when you come in here yelling at everybody, it kind of makes a hostile work environment. And that apparently wasn't the right thing to say to him. He points me at the in the chest. He's like, Paul, if you ever talk to me like that again, you're going to lose your job. And I was like, you know, I have a decision to make right now. And I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not going to give him the pleasure to fire me. I'm done. And so I left that day and I was like, man, I got to figure out this online space. And so I guess you would say that was the initiation of
Right.
online marketing, doing things online. So
So when did you first have your first success with online marketing? When did you like realize, oh, there's real value in this? Um,
yeah,
I think I'm going to give it a shot.
yeah. So at this point, again, you have to imagine for those that are listening that there's no internet. It is just, you know, 20% of businesses are online. So I was trying to sell something that people are like, oh, I'm not really interested in. But
It's a
over
fad.
time, yeah, I was like, "Ah, this is a scam. You know, I don't need a website. But obviously the demand increased and I was there at the right time and I started building websites. And then social media platforms came out. Early days it was like MySpace, and
Right,
then
right.
the bigger one, Facebook. Facebook initially it was just for college students, and you had to actually have a college email to be able to set up an account. One of my friends went off to college and they're like, hey Paul, stay connected with me on this Facebook thing. They gave me access via a college email. I went on there, I was like, man, this is for kids, I don't have time for this. But when it opened up to the public, I saw, okay, well, cool. There's maybe some opportunity here. And businesses started building their pages, and I was an early adopter. And initially, Facebook did not have an ad platform. You could buy ad placement on Facebook through a third party. And so I was playing around with that. I'm kind of a hobby, kind of like just testing it. I was playing around with Google Ads and the other ad platforms. And I noticed that on Facebook, it was super cheap. I was like, wow, and it was good traffic. You know, if you could figure out
Yeah.
how to, you know, capture it properly, it was decent. You know, we were getting clicks, like 10 clicks for a penny.
Wow.
So just very cheap. So I'm playing around with it. And probably 6 months, a year, Facebook reached out to me and they're like, hey, we see that you're running ads on our platform. We're going to release our own ad platform. Would you be a beta tester for it? I was like, yeah, cool. Cool thing about that, what they would do is they would give me large amount of credits
Oh,
to
wow.
test out. So it'd be like 10,000, 20,000, 30, $50,000 just in ad credits that I could
Wow.
test out and use. So I would find people, clients, and I was like, yeah, let me run your ads for you. And whatever I could get is what I would charge them. And then finally, Facebook released this ad platform to the public. When they did that, there was a surge of businesses that came on trying to use this ad platform. 90% of them did not know how to use them. They had this little button on Facebook that was like, hey, do you want to grow your Facebook page? Click here. And then it would auto create an ad for it. The
Right.
ad performed horribly, but it took the people's money really good. so, so I would scroll online and I would see these ads, and I could just immediately see if someone used that auto create an ad just by the way it looked, everything. I knew it. And I would reach out to them and I would say, hey, I see you're running ads on Facebook. How's that going for you? Oh, it's going good. I'm like, well, if you don't mind me asking, what type of results are you getting? And they're like, oh, you know, I'm growing my page and I'm getting like 100 followers for $100. So a dollar a click is what
Yeah.
they were getting.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, maybe it was less than that, but a dollar a click. And I was getting 10 clicks for a penny. So,
Wow. Wow.
I would say, well, how about you let me manage it for you and I can get you better results. And I would say, you know, for $100, I can get you 1,000 followers. And they're like, oh, no, I don't believe you. And everything. I could get them 100,000 followers. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, but they'd be resistant to it. And I would say, well, let me do it free for 3 days. And because again, I could take, uh, $1 and I could get them 1,000 followers for it. So,
Wow.
sometimes it was less, but I could at least get them 500 followers, at least get them 500 followers for it. And so after 2 or 3 days, they were like, hey, this is fantastic. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Number one, the quality was better. Number two, it was cheaper for them. They thought that I was spending $100 and getting them 1,000 followers, but I was only spending $1. And I said, well, this is what I want you to do. You give me that $100 a day budget. I'll manage everything and I'll get you better results. So the other 90%, that was my profit for them. People were
Wow.
happy. And so it rapidly grew. I mean, I was getting 2 or 3 clients a day, just scrolling, finding people like that. And
Wow.
then I would say, hey, I would do it for free. Next thing you know, I'm working for big names. Companies are reaching out to me. And yeah, now fast forward almost 20 years later, I've worked with A-list celebrities, Fortune 500 companies, some of the biggest names on the online space. And I guess you would say it started there in the days of Facebook marketing.
Wow, wow, I love that story, and I also I think there's a relevant tip in there for somebody when it comes to even whatever kind of business they're in, especially if they're a marketer or somebody that does branding or any kind of thing, is find somebody that's already spending money in the space,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they're spending it badly,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and offer to
absolutely.
help them, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what you did is you found people that were already investing in the space. You didn't have to
Hmm.
convince them
Yeah.
from zero, of zero awareness, zero interest, zero whatever. They were already interested in the space, and you just said, "Let me help you do it better." And so I love
Yeah.
that because I think a lot of people can, if they're like, "Where do I find clients? Where do I find people that I can help out?" Find somebody who's already spending money doing the thing that you do, but they're doing it badly.
Yeah, that's exactly. And that early going, that was kind of a model, whether I realized it or not. I would be, just scanning online. I would see people doing stuff and I would click on their funnels and I would say, this is not done right.
Yeah,
And I had a confidence knowing that I could increase their sales, I could better manage their ads, and I would just reach out to them. And there was no risk for them. I'm like, hey, just let me do it for a week. I won't charge you, but we get the results, you hire me. And
yeah.
if you knew what you were doing, you're competent and you could do better, it was a win-win situation for both parties.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And so for some of the A-listers that you worked with and some of the big names, um, was it simply running the ads that it was, or did you extend into doing more things
Yeah,
with
yeah.
them?
So we did a little bit of everything. We did personal branding. We built their websites. I'll give you an example. So Kevin Hart had the privilege of working with Kevin Hart, and he was launching a clothing line and needing a website and just different things like that. And I remember us putting together the proposal for him. And when I sit down in front of him and started showing him, and he's saying, we're going to build this, we're going to do this, we're going to run this, blah, 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 and everything like that. And of course, the first question was, well, how much are you going to charge us? And I said, well, we're not going to charge you anything to build all this out. All we want is just a percentage of every sale. And for him, it was a deal. It's on. And his manager later told me, he's like, look, we had a guy that built everything out for us, charged us 6 figures to do this. And when he was done, he left. He just kind of left it on our hands here.
Oh,
And we
wow.
don't know how to run it or anything like that. And I'm like, well, we see the bigger picture where if we're in it with you for a long distance relationship, there is an opportunity for everybody to make money.
Yeah, yeah, and that's, I mean, that's another great principle there in itself is, there was no risk to him,
Right. Yeah.
because of you were doing it, and it was all on you to actually produce the results that you said you could get. And
Yeah.
so that kind of put it more on you that, if we can't produce the results, then yeah, we'll charge you up front. And then like that other guy did is
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
exit,
That's it.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
so I love that model.
Yeah.
And so, as far as the running of the ads and all of that, how has that changed? You said you had that
Mhm.
super success, 20 years ago when it first started in, and it's a lot cheaper, it was a lot easier. Are you still doing that? And how has that changed now? Is it still just as easy, or has it got way more complicated?
Well, it's sometimes I'll say, oh, it's really easy. And people will have to say, because you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Is it easy? Yeah. It's kind of like a doctor saying, oh, appendectomy, that's easy. You know what I mean? So is it easy? It's easy if you know what you're doing. But
Yeah.
I would say there's a few different changes that I've seen. Again, there was a day that you could run anything and do anything on Facebook ads. It was wild, wild west. No rules, no policies, anything like that. Just put
Yeah.
it up. And I remember there was no pixel, there was no lookalike audience, there was nothing like that. And then I think the pendulum swung to the other extreme, where it was difficult to run anything on there. Everybody's accounts were getting banned and shut down and stuff.
Right, right.
And what I have seen in the evolution of, I would say, most ad platforms is that the barrier of entry becomes a little bit more difficult. Every 2 or 3 years, something changes, a policy
Right.
change, a technology change, the way things are done online, it changes. And there's typically this fear, oh, we're not going to be able to do this anymore. Oh, this changes everything, like the iOS update. Everybody's like, oh man, this Facebook ads are dead. And just there was a lot of fear and stuff. But what I see is it makes the marketers that aren't good, they drop off. But the marketers that are good, they rise higher. So
Right.
most of the times, I've had a conversation with, the higher ups at Facebook, and this is kind of their motto is they want the user experience. When someone gets online, their primary focus is the user experience. It's not about money. It's not about, how much can we make in ad dollars. It's not about that. It's what creates the best user experience. So they know if they create a good user experience, the money will follow. So understand that these policy changes, these updates, they will make the platform better. It might be more difficult for you, but it is something that will make the platform better. Nowadays, I think there's probably going to come a day where, with the advent of artificial intelligence, that you probably just pick up your phone and say, hey, make me an ad for this. This is my site. And just everything's made for
Right.
you and
Right.
created for you. So they're wanting to do things that make it easier for people, but obviously there is a motive of creating as much cash flow for them as possible.
Right, right. And their business model is, I guess, the way most businesses should model what they do is, if I provide the value, the money will come.
Yeah,
If I chase the
absolutely.
money, then I'm going to probably skimp on value,
Yeah.
if I'm just motivated by that. And so through Speakpreneur, how do you help personal brands? What are the first things that you start doing? That's primarily what you do? So do you still
Yeah.
do the ad stuff, or
Yeah, so
is
we
okay?
still have a very healthy, strong digital marketing agency that's been going nearly 20 years now. We work with some of the top entrepreneurs online, work with, large companies, run their ads, build their funnels. So I have that. Also have a PR firm where we help people get in major publications, and whether it's Forbes or Entrepreneur, that we're able to help them tell their story on these major publications. But one of the things that I've seen as kind of one of my, I guess you would say, superpowers when it comes to helping entrepreneurs, it's more than just the ads. It's more than the building the funnels, but it's been helping them use their voice, tell their story, get their message out there, share who they are through speaking, whether speaking online, whether speaking at events, whether it's speaking on podcasts. It's about using your voice. So I guess you would say, if I looked really closely, what I was doing is helping people that had an amazing story, great voice, good at speaking improve that, and then we amplify it through marketing, through ads. But if a person doesn't know how to tell their story, if a person doesn't know how to use their voice to its fullest capacity, then your marketing, these ads, it's all in vain. So you kind of have to go back to the root, have to go back to the root, help people become better speakers. And so whether that's speaking like we're doing right now, speaking on a stage, that is, in my opinion, the number one asset that an individual, an entrepreneur can invest in, is learning how to use their voice to its fullest capacity.
So how, when you start working with somebody that feels they want to do that, because yeah, if you build a, like there was a mall that was built in St. Louis years and years ago, and big hype. There was all kinds of hype around it.
Yeah.
It was going to be a themed mall. It was going to be fantastic. It was going to be awesome. It was the first one of its kind in the area. And when you went there, it was pretty much empty. Like there were no stores.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so, I think a lot of people do that with their marketing and with their promotions is they go big and then they've got nothing to offer. They've got nothing that is of value that they offer. And so, what you're saying, if I understood it right, is you want to make sure that before they start doing the ads, running the promotions, that they do some of that work beforehand to get in place. So where do you start with people when they come to you and say, I need to get out there more?
Yeah, so I think that there's a few different things that individuals have to take in consideration. Number one, marketing doesn't solve problems. All marketing does is amplify what you're already doing. So if you're not good at what you're doing and you add marketing, now more people know you're not good at
Yeah,
what you're
yeah,
doing.
yeah.
So obviously it's people before profits. It
Right.
is relationships over revenue, and having a product or service that actually solves problems. It improves what it does what you say it's going to do. So you start at your offer, you start at your product, your service there. And that might take some testing, might take some validation. A lot of times what we do is we try to find individuals that we can work with that have already made their first $250,000 because they've got this validation of market that,
Yeah.
hey, it's working, it's doing something, people are looking for it. So uh, that's that's first of all, is having an offer, a product or service that legitimately helps people. And then from there, it's about communicating it. It's important for people to understand that, hey, there's a lot of people that might have similar products or services as you. There's
Yeah.
other marketers, there's other digital marketers, there's other people that specialize in personal branding. But what people really connect with is more than your product or your service, but your story, who you are. It's about, you know, your success story, how you connect. Like there's people that are going to connect with me because I like Iron Man, I wear a bow tie and stuff. And so that's all a part. So finding what makes you unique, what makes you that special person that can really serve a special select group of people, learning to find that. And some people, they just, they try to be all things to all people.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. So you have to be comfortable in yourself. You're unique. You've got certain gifts, certain talents, certain stories about you that make you unique. So embrace that and learn to communicate that and connect with people through using your voice.
And so when they start doing that, trying to find their voice, do you have a process that you walk them through? How do they do that? Like for some people that comes naturally. They've got a
Sure,
personality. They kind of are comfortable in who they are. For others, they're like, I don't know. I don't even know where to
sure,
start. So where do you
sure.
start them off?
Yeah, so I use a simple formula anybody can use. I call it the ICE formula. ICE. First of all, there's an introduction. And that introduction, maybe that's your story. That's, what makes you unique. Telling people, this is my story. This is people connect with your story. That's so people need to know your story, where you came from, who you are. Like podcasts are a great opportunity for people to tell their stories. So there's an introduction. Sometimes that's like, your sizzle video. That's your origin story. That's your background, your rags to riches story, or whatever it is. But people have to connect with that personality. So there's an introduction. And that's not necessarily that, one video does it, but there is an intentional process that I'm continually introducing myself to people. It's not like you do it one time and like, okay, I've made my introduction. It's something that you are consistent and you are continually doing over and over. You're making that introduction. This is who I am. This is where I was brought up. This is all of that. So you've got I, introduction, and then you've got C, which is content. Content that is engaging, content that is connecting with people, content that is providing value for people. So that's you are positioning yourself as the expert, the authority, the go-to person. So that content might educate people, it might inspire people, it might motivate people, it might make people laugh, but it's content that is just producing value. I tell people that your content wants to be content that when people wake up in the morning, like, oh man, I need to check out Paul's content. So it's at the top of their mind when they wake up. So number one, introduction. Number two, content. And again, continually providing value. And then after you have IC, then you go E. E is for engage. That's where you offer your product, your service. Now, if you do I and you do C properly, you don't have to pitch yourself. People will start to reach out to you. Hey, I like what you're doing. Sell me. You know what I mean? They're like, I want to buy what you have. Sell me. So people want to get closer to you. But there used to be a day in the early days that it was just like post and sell, where it was just like you could just put something out there and people would buy it. Now the market is more saturated. People are a little bit more resistant. So you have to continually be introducing yourself and providing content before you go to the ask and you engage people.
Wow, I love that. I love that. So, what are some things that people are doing? The ICE is a great way to formulate that. I absolutely love that, because one of the most engaging posts that I've done recently was Easter. I shared my story, my Jesus story. And I got more engagement than any other post I've ever posted about branding or anything else.
Love it.
Because people loved hearing my backstory, and I've had all kinds of people reach out from that. So I absolutely love ICE and all that is. So when you're looking at what people are doing and examining what they're doing, what are some of the more common mistakes that they're making that kind of breaks the ice, I guess?
Well, I think trying to do what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
That's the mistake. Trying to do what everybody else is doing, trying to make your voice sound like everybody else's voice. You have to be disruptive. You have to be disruptive. So when people are scrolling, you stop the scroll. Disruptive is something that is always moving. It's always changing. So I've done ad campaigns. I've, been the author of some content creation campaigns that when people scroll, they're like, whoa, that's cool. And I've had marketers like, man, that's the coolest ad I've ever seen. And what happens is when people see things that are disruptive, they're like, oh man, that works great. I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? I'm going to do that. And then another person, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And then what was
no longer disruptive
6 months ago, it's no longer disruptive because everybody is doing it. I have made ads initially on Facebook. There was no videos, which sounds crazy. There was no videos no video ads or anything. It was just static. And I remember creating static ads that it was like, boom, it did amazing. Just the way that we created it, the effects that we used. And literally 4 or 5 months later, everybody that was a marketer was doing the exact same thing. And then it's just like, people like, I'm tired of this. So you have to, continually move and adapt to what is disruptive. So
Right.
you always have to think one step ahead of what everybody else is doing, try to catch trends, jump on the trends, but understand that those trends have a certain lifespan to them. So comes down to building a strong personal brand, building a strong personal brand that can people can connect with over a lifetime.
Wow, I love that. And so for some of the bigger brands or the bigger names, you know, they of course probably come into it thinking they've got a strong personal brand. What are some of those ads or some of those things that you've had to work with them to get them to create content or to introduce themselves or to disrupt that have made an impact that maybe somebody can learn from that might not be at that level, but it can certainly
Sure,
learn from?
sure. So here's one of the things when it comes to creating a personal brand or content that goes viral is you never really know what's going to hit. So you have to continually put stuff out there. For example, I think that most people, when you think of Ty Lopez, you probably recognize the Here in My Garage ad.
Right.
That was not necessarily a scripted ad that like, hey, let's get in the garage, let's get the books, let's get the cars around, and this is the setup. This was something that was very spontaneous, and it just, if he didn't do it, we would have never known about Ty Lopez Here in My Garage. So
Right.
that's something that sometimes the best content is not the scripted, it's not planned, it's just you're putting content out there. The biggest secret to content is just show up. Just
Yeah.
show up.
Yeah.
Be consistent. Just show up because you don't really know what's going to hit. But I would say this: most big brands are they amplify attributes about themselves that can sometimes be polarizing. So
Hmm.
most big brands amplify the attributes about themselves that are polarizing. And what I mean by that is we all probably have some characteristics. We all have some, behaviors, personality traits that make us unique. And like, for example, for me, my personal brand, it is based around the bow tie and the glasses, the internet marketing nerd. Now, the truth be told, am I always in a bow tie and glasses? No. Like, like
That's your Clark Kent version, right? Is when you're not in the bow tie and
right, right, yeah.
glasses.
I have been in the mall and just in a t-shirt and have my contact lenses in and stuff like that. And I've had people standing there and they're just looking at me and I'm like, and I just do a little wave at them or stuff. And then they come up to me like, are you Paul Getter? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, we didn't know because you're not in a suit and you're not wearing glasses. I'm like, yeah, it's me.
It's my
So
secret identity. Yeah.
my secret identity. So I think that there are probably certain personality traits that if you look at, for example, a Grant Cardone, a Ty Lopez, that what you see online is an amplified version of who they really are. Are they all authentic to who they are in this video and this content? Yeah. But that's one side. That's one dimension. There's 99 other, videos that could be made about who they are. So, but
Right.
there's a trait, there's an attribute, there's a persona that they amplify, and that can be polarizing. That can be
Yeah.
polarizing. That people like, man, I really like this guy. I like this, or like, I can't stand this individual. So they're willing to take on haters just to amplify that.
Well, I think some people also they go into the I want to be polarizing thing, and they're
Mhm.
not ready for the backlash too. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
they
yeah,
think everybody's saying be polarizing, post controversial content, get out there, be on the edge, and then they
yeah.
do that and they get the hate, and they're like, "Oh, I don't like this."
Yeah, yeah,
It's
it's not
part of
that
it.
fun. It's
Yeah.
not that fun. No, 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 no. So it's interesting. I think that there's a certain percentage of people that regardless of what you do, that they're going to be haters. Like I
Yeah.
I have found myself in the comments and like, oh man, this guy wearing a bow tie, don't trust people that wear bow ties. And, just like, I'm like, what, really? Don't trust people that wear bow ties? It's like Abraham Lincoln wore a bow tie, so but, you get stuck in the comments and, it can definitely get to you. So.
Yeah. So with some of the people that some of the pieces that you've done, you've mentioned that you created some stuff and then people copied. What's been your proudest campaign or personal brand that you've worked on that you found suddenly people copying?
Well, so there was a day I would the biggest one, and most people won't even know it because it was so long ago, unless you were there at the early space. So there was a phase when it was just static ads that you could manipulate images and get them to stand out on the scroll. So like you could put a 3D effect on it, and then it would just kind of like lift, and like people would scroll. We would do that. We would do where it looked like there was an image coming down from below onto the ad,
Oh yeah,
and just
yeah.
things like that that would stop the scroll. But we have done things to that level. We have done things where it looks like a button is on the ad and people click on it and stuff. I believe that we have created ads that made Facebook implement certain policies that like can't do that. That works too good.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Wow.
there was different style ads like that. I would say, we've had the privilege. I never want to come across like, oh man, I'm the secret sauce to these guys' success, because having the privilege to work with them, most of them had a great level of success before we even started working with them. Our job, our role was helping them translate that offline success to online success.
Right, right.
So running ads, like I've helped build and create and run ads for just about everything that Ty Lopez has. We helped do, well, I can say one of the things that we've helped make popular is the book funnel, free plus shipping book funnel.
Yeah.
Obviously, Russell, he was a big part of it, but we ran ads and we helped build the funnels for some of the biggest names using the book funnel, free plus shipping book funnel. So whether it's Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez, Bob Proctor, Les Brown, these big names, we have spent hundreds of millions of dollars in ads. And that free plus shipping book funnel was something that was very popular, and we still use today for that matter. And if you looked at it, you would say, oh, Les Brown did it a lot, or Ty Lopez did it a lot, or, Grant Cardone did this free plus shipping book model a lot. But we were the ones that created it and ran the ads for it.
That's awesome. So what's really working well now when it comes to building the personal brand and especially online? What do you find working best now? I know ICE is a great way to get
Yeah.
started, but what else do you find is working really well right now?
Well, people want to be connected with people. Plain and simple. People want to be connected with people. People want to have real relationships. They're tired of this superficial, just, soft connection. They want something real, intangible. So for us, we have been doing a lot of in-person events. Obviously, we run the ads online, but we get the people there at an event in person. And what I can say about an in-person event, number one, the cost per acquisition is better than a webinar. A webinar, for example, it might cost you $20 to get a person registered for a webinar, depending on your niche and everything like that. Just, it can be a lot less, or it can actually be a lot more. But let's just say it's $20 for someone to register for a webinar. There used to be a day that if it was a free webinar, you might get 50% of the people show up to a webinar. Now it's like 20%.
Wow.
So if you get 500 people registered for a webinar, you might get 100 people show up for it. And these are people that come for a free webinar. An event, so take that $10,000 that you would spend to get 500 people registered for a $20 registration. I can take $10,000 and do an in-person event, get a couple hundred people live and in person at an event, potentially even make money on the front end selling tickets for this. Now I get, let's say, 150 people at an event. And from there, it's not, they're not just staying there an hour with me, but they're staying 1 day, 2 days, sometimes even 3 days at an event. So you can imagine the amount of time and relationship that I'm building with people for that these people, it's a lot easier for them to connect, build a trusting relationship, and purchase a high ticket offer doing something like that.
Now, is that what you're doing with Speakpreneur? Is that
Yes.
okay? All right,
Yeah.
is helping people do those kind of things. So tell me a little bit more about Speakpreneur. Where did that come from, and how are some ways that you're helping through your business, helping people get to those places where they're able to do a in-person webinar or seminar?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been speaking for over 30 years. Yeah, over 30 years now, since I was a teenager. And again, looking back at the role that I played with these individuals, the root of it was more than just ads. It was more than just funnels, but it was helping them find their voice and then amplifying that through ads, through marketing. So going back to the source has always been helping people use their voice. Speakpreneur, we help individuals transform their voice for impact, influence, and income. When you recognize that your voice is one of the most valuable assets that you have, learning to tell your story, that's what differentiates you from every other person, is your story and how you communicate it. A lot of times people have amazing stories, but they just don't know how to tell it. If they learn how to tell it properly, it can really change the trajectory of their business and their online journey. So I would have people come up to me because I speak at events, I speak at masterminds, and they would come up to me and they would say, "Hey, Paul, are you a speaking coach?" I'm like, "No, I'm a digital marketer. I do funnels, I do ads."
Yeah.
And then after hearing that multiple times, people like, "Look, I need a speaking coach. I love how you speak. I love how you communicate. Can you help me do that?" I saw that people recognized the source. It was more than the ads. It was more than the funnels, but it was about using the voice. And so over the past about year and a half, 2 years, we've kind of taken that on and helped individuals grow through using their voice. And again, it's not just in person, but it's online. If you know how to communicate, if you know how to tell your story, selling becomes telling. It's not difficult. It's easy. It's just telling people your story, showing people your mission, showing people what you can do, and learning how to communicate that better. Some people are the best kept secret. Like, they have an amazing product, they have an amazing service, but nobody knows about it. So what does it matter if you're the best at it, but nobody knows about it? So helping, individuals find that voice within themselves and tell that story and communicate and connect with people, that is one of the most valuable things that an individual can invest in.
Wow. So we're coming up to an hour, and I value your time, and I want to honor your time. What's one thing that, or a question that I haven't asked, or something that you want to share as we begin to wrap this up? Also, I thought I was muting myself when I cleared my throat, and I don't think I was.
Oh,
So I apologize for that.
I didn't hear it. So, man, I tell you, for me and you and I, we've had this conversation. Sometimes people will ask the question, what is the reason for your success? Like, you've been in this over 20 years. Like, why are you successful? It's God. It's God. Uh, you know, I I look at a lot of things like the timing, me doing this at the right time, learning this, being at the right place, connecting with the right people. And, some people say, "Man, you were really lucky in that." I believe I have to give God credit. for my success. It's been a blessing to work with some of the biggest names online. It's been a blessing. And, the scripture actually tells us God gives us the gift to create wealth. So, what's what's the secret to my success? That's the question. What's the secret to my success? Secret to my success is God. Put God first. You'll never be last.
Absolutely love that. What a great way to wrap this up. So who do you help and who do you not help, and how do people get a hold of you?
So when it comes to Speakpreneur, we work with entrepreneurs that want to learn how to speak on stage, want to learn how to do their own events. So we've worked with anything from doctors to, individuals that have an online business. So cover a lot of different people with the Speakpreneur program. When it comes to our digital marketing agency, we do have a higher threshold barrier of entry to work with us. We want to work with coaches, consultants that have a product or service that has made their first $250,000 that are looking to scale that up to 7 figures. If you want to connect with me, the easiest way to connect with me is on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Paul, just Paul. Send me a message. Matter of fact, anybody that's listening to this podcast, send me a message, say that you heard me on this podcast. I'll make sure you get a free copy of one of my 3 books.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Paul. I'm still a little upset that you did get the @Paul on Instagram. But
I got it before you, man. I got it before you got it.
But I got @Vop, and I'm happy with that. So I'm totally happy.
Works.
Well, Paul, this has been an amazing conversation.
Thank you.
Absolutely love talking to you, and love what you're doing.
Likewise.
And love the Spider-Man inspired suit jacket.
Yes.
And you have a great day, man. Take care.
All right. You too. Thanks a lot, Paul.
You are listening to Conversations with Misfits, Mavericks, and Trailblazers.